All right, so I'm gonna be doing my second live today. It's gonna be with Liza Solar, who does a lot of podcasting herself. So we're gonna talk some about that, and she also does some fighting. So as always, if you like what I'm doing, you can follow this channel, Todd underscore Atkins underscore show. Liza, how are you?
How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty well.
Okay, great.
So I always like to let people start out who, if there's anyone who's watching this that isn't familiar with you, maybe you could introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. My name is Lisa Soler. I am from Broward County, Florida. That's out of South Florida. I am the CEO and host of the Lisa with the Heat podcast. I'm also a media post-fight interviewer for a lot of the promotions that we have down here. And I just recently graduated from Miami Media School for the radio and TV broadcasting program that they have there.
Now, so when did you kind of start getting into the podcasting first?
It was about, this is something that I've had in the books, like in my plans for about a couple of years now, maybe 4 or 5 years, but I didn't actually take into place starting the podcast about maybe 2 years ago.
Um, what made you kind of decide to do it?
This was around quarantine. I had a lot of time to myself, and I had time to develop and really come up with the concept of what I wanted to do with the podcast. And it's evolved throughout its time. But, quarantine just gave me a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do with my future. And I started the podcast just recording in my room. And now, I've been featured all around the whole state. And so I've been very blessed um, on this journey.
So, what do you think originally was your concept?
I really wanted to go around all the gyms. I kind of wanted to do more of a blog kind of thing where I would go to all the best gyms in Florida and meet up with all the teams and their fighters and just sit down and have a talk with them and get to know them as, individuals and as mixed martial artists here in the state of Florida. But then, of course, a lot of the gyms closed down, and it does take a lot to travel and to really invest in that type of documentary style blog, and you need a team, and it takes a lot. Eventually, maybe down the road, when I do have more investors and like I put in a lot more money into traveling and meeting all the gyms. Luckily, I have been able to go. I have visited like the best gyms in the state of Florida as well. I've met a lot of friends in the industry this way through the podcast. And I have fun along the way. I get to meet interesting people like you. I mean, it got me to you as well. So here we are.
Now, as you were creating, what do you think like the early experiences were as you were kind of building it?
Um, a lot of mistakes were happening. I had to learn how to adjust with the Zooms and the recordings. A lot of it was sometimes people just didn't care because I'm a woman talking about combat sports and what do I know? And, I hadn't even debuted in any kind of combat sport. I would just do the training for health purposes and, just for myself. And then, but I've always supported all the other fighters in the community since the beginning of me even learning how to, get involved with combat sports. So I've always been more of a supporting role in the industry until this year, where I finally had the opportunities to fight myself and get in there. And, now I'm still changing the standard and like, going above and beyond what the industry has had for us and making a change. So the podcast and my fighting career grow together at the same time right now, because I'm able to talk about my journey and have everybody else watch my journey as well. Like a lot of people have seen my journey from the beginning when I was do my old fight camps and just blog or like do my daily talks about it on my story of like my experience. And it has been an experience over the last 5 years. So the podcast just gives me a platform to be able to talk to a lot of the best people in the industry, and they love it now. A lot of them now message me, and all the fighters like, "Hey, are you gonna be at this promotion? Hey, are you gonna be at this promotion?" And I'm like, if it's a yes, it's a yes. If it's a no, I'm working on it. But we're starting to go across the state. I Next weekend I'll be in Fort Pierce for another promotion, and it's just developing, and I'm having a great time along the way.
I mean, because you live in an area where it's kind of getting so prominent in Florida,
Yeah.
like when you started, you probably didn't necessarily have interest in covering these events, or did you?
Um, Not as a media personality. I loved going just as a fan before because that's just what I love to do. But I had a friend, I have a friend. His name is Lou Vasquez. He's a commentator for Combat Night. He also runs the Unprofessional Breakdown podcast for them. So he does post fight like interviews with the fighters. He suggested that I get involved in doing post fight interviews because not a lot of um media sources that we have here were doing that. Of course, you have like sources like the Fighting News, and now Jared Parker is always coming up along here as well in South Florida. And then there's my podcast, my platform for the fighters, in the amateurs. I've had some pros on here, but for the most part, the amateurs have not had a platform where they can go and have their post fight interview. So I'm not like a fight bananas who has like the UFC fighters and all the things like that. I'm more in the market for the amateurs because I believe in them because they're amateurs now, but they are pros in the future. So, if I play a little bit of tiny role in their history, then I'd be very grateful, and I've done my job.
Now, how long did it take when you first started doing it for people to say, "Oh, maybe you should do some stuff with us," or whatever?
Mm, well, my first opportunity kind of went bust. And I don't know if I'll go back to that opportunity, but it gave me a learning experience. But I'm very lucky that Daniel K. When I moved back down to South Florida, I was living in Tampa at one point right around the Corona time. So I moved back down to the South Florida scene, and I was looking to see what promotions were down here that I can do the post fight interviews. And of course, XFN is one of the top out here for MMA and between amateur and its pro shows. And I reached out to Danny Kaye, and Danny Kaye gave me the opportunity to come to his promotion. And honestly, I've been there since every show since. And I fought, and he also debuted the heavyweight Muay Thai or kickboxing, you know, match period for the state of Florida, and so I've been very grateful for those opportunities. And there's other, I've also been to Rise. I've also been to Cobra now. I've seen. I've been to Bad Promotions of professional boxing. I've also been to Undisputed Promotions as well. So I've visited Titan. I haven't really done post interviews there. I would love to, and for Combate as well. Would love to as well one day. And of course UFC and Bellator, and of course just growth. I want to have the growth and have my podcast, reach those goals one day.
Now, when did you kind of like first find the sport, combat sports, so to speak?
About 5 years ago, I tried all kinds of different ways of like going through weight loss, and as a single mother of two, I never really had time for myself. And then, I had a great friend that I went to high school with. We reconnected, and he was just like, "Hey, why don't you try kickboxing?" So I did it, because it was something different, and I fell in love with it from that point on. And I've had many mentors and coaches and friends along the way of this journey to help me grow. as an athlete. And so, I mean, I just fell in love with the sport, and not only just the fighting part of it, the whole tradition and the honor and the respect and the loyalty and just the overall community that I've been able to adapt to.
Now, someone who's creating, like you said, you moved back down to South Florida. Like, I know Tampa has a lot of stuff too, as far as some of these events. But is it better to be in South Florida or?
Well, I grew up here in South Florida. I'm from Broward, so I originally went up there to Tampa, for family reasons, and then that got handled, and now I decided to come back down. It was a business move. Like I had to hit it when it was hot, and it's been the best decision ever because I've been able to now really plant myself down here as Lisa with a Z and like make a name out here for myself. And I'm only going to continue to push for more. Yeah.
And talk about the media school that you went to.
Oh, Miami Media School. Well, in the beginning of my podcast, I was not so familiar with um, editing. Well, I was, but I have learned now how to enhance all my features and just try to make improvements for the podcast and the better look and the better quality and just I knew that I've always wanted to be in this business in media my whole life. I have a performing arts background growing up young. I've always been on a stage somehow, some way. For those who know me since I'm a kid, they know. So this is just a different platform. Is just a different stage for me. And so I knew that I wanted to have the accreditation um, to know, like, have people know, like, hey, I'm certified in this industry. Like, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing. And so I wanted to have that security. And I just like this on Thursday, I'll be making the walk for my graduation. And so I'm very happy to have accomplished that. And right now, I'm taking some time to concentrate on the fight camp right now for my next fight, as well as catching up with some things after graduation. And then I'm going to go straight into like the job hunt into either radio or maybe some kind of media production company.
So when you went to the school, was it more on the broadcasting side or?
Correct, radio and television broadcasting. But they also taught us filmmaking, scripting, just overall production um, kind of quality.
So were they kind of trying to teach you also like because it's I mean you said it's kind of media, so I guess that would be all encompassing, right?
Yeah, I
But
mean, everything, the breakdown of lighting, how to set up everything, the shots, audio, visuals, production sets, everything.
but for someone who's doing mostly like a sports, a combat sports or sports, did they try to teach you some angles for that or was it more all encompassing?
Really, I had to like just kind of adjust it to what I do. So because now I get to see a lot of the behind the scenes in all these fight events. Like, I think it's so awesome to see what it takes to put on a show, like an MMA fight. And like, you have your fans that just show up, they pay their ticket, they watch a fight, and they go home. But they don't know the before, and they don't know, the craziness and the bookings and the venues, and just making sure the setup is right, and making sure everybody's happy and nothing's going wrong, and and I've seen so much stuff behind the scenes that I respected so much, and I have so many individuals that I look up to in this industry. And I'm just looking forward to more. I'm looking forward to more this year.
Maybe talk about some of the people you worked with as far as when you got to see some of the behind the scenes.
Oh my God, Israel is my number one guy that I would say number one because right before I moved from Tampa, Israel Cantu, he owns the Ranking Rentals of South Florida. And he's an amazing, like he does all the cages here in every promotion you can think of, and media production, lighting. He's the guy, and he gave me a chance and like he's really been here, take me under his wing, and like I've been able to like really see what he does and what it takes to run a show, and I love every minute of that. Who else? Michael Maldonado. He's like somebody I really hold close myself close to. He keeps me focused as a fighter, kind of like a fight manager unofficially, but keeps me focused as a fighter. Um, I have to say, like, just my best friends keep me very humble, and like, I turn to them when things don't go right, or maybe opportunities don't come for me, and I have to like, just pick myself back up because I'm not always gonna get every opportunity that I want. And I mean, at the moment, because I really do work hard for everything that I love. But then I do know when if I've tried everything and it's still not meant to be, I'll know when to let it go and just move on, to the next thing. So, I mean, there's everybody, all the promoters that allow me to come in and just, share the stories of all the fighters. I'm thankful for all of them. They don't have to have my show there, but it seems to bring a smile on a lot of people's faces. So, that's the main reason why I love doing what I do.
Now, why do you think it's kind of Florida? I mean, there's always been gyms there.
I'm sorry, it was breaking up a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry. Why do you think the sport has got so big in South Florida or in Florida in general? I mean, there's always been gyms there, but
Yeah,
it
I don't
seems
know.
to be more.
We have some tough ass fighters, the best of the best. And I mean, they grow from amateurs to pro. You literally watch them develop from their debut fights to their pro debut to the championship belt holders. And I've watched so many of not just South Florida, just Florida fighters in general. I've watched so many of them grow, but it's because we all are very supportive. Even though Florida is very big, it's a very small community. Everybody knows everybody. And if you don't, well, then eventually, if you really do put yourself into the sport, you're gonna get to know everybody. Um, but yeah, no, everybody encourages each other. Eventually, friends end up fighting friends sometimes, and it's kind of confusing to support who, as teammates. But at the end of the day, it's all about respect, and everybody's working for it.
But I mean, why are there so many promotions there now?
I don't know. It's the new wave. We're hot down here, Florida. Especially South Florida. Like we have a good time. You know, I've been to different parts of the state, different events, and I love the way South Florida fight events go. Like our fans are so great. They're very passionate. Um, Friends fight friends in the streets also. Street beefs. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some people do some backyard fight stuff over here too. They got that going down over here. I ain't mad at it. Hey, it's not for everybody, but if you're ready to go street fighting, jump in.
I
I
see
don't
a lot of
recommend
that.
it though. I don't
Yeah.
recommend it though. I don't recommend it because like it's not protective. You're just gonna cause yourself risk.
I did
So
think it did start down there in Florida with like Kimbo and
yeah,
Masvidal. Yeah.
Masvidal, yeah. But those are the guys out here. Like if you don't know about Masvidal or Kimbo Slice, um, then you shouldn't be talking about fighting.
Now, I would think what you're doing is pretty competitive in that area because of all the events. How does that kind of, what has been your experience with that?
Um, in the beginning when I first showed up, I thought I was gonna like, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. We're out here to do media. Um, I have my own platform. I run my own things. I have my own way how I do things. I have a vision of how I do things. And everybody knows it now. Like if they see me, I take my time. I set myself up. Everything has to be exactly how I like it. So it took some time for people to like learn that, and now you have all the other media sources like Fighting News and Jared, and we all like kind of work together because at the end of the day, we're here for the fighters too. We're not here for just us. And how our growth is, we're here to do our jobs. So, we're all cordial, but we all have a good time. I love working with everybody down here. It's like, you see each other sometimes back to back nights because there's back to back fights. It is what it is. We can all keep each other's energy up. And it's a good time. It is a family.
Um, how many people? I mean, I know you don't know exact, but like how many people are doing what you do, basically down there, just roughly. Is it a lot or is it not
I
a
mean,
big community,
I
really?
would say like, under 10 people that I could say are just like your top podcasters slash interviewers.
Hmm.
Everybody's different. Everybody has a different personality. The way I do it is not the how Jared does it. And the way that Jared does it is not the way that Steve does it. And, then you have Olive and then I don't really know her name, I'm sorry, but there's this lady that does like skulls and stilettos, I think for Titan. We're all different media sources. You have Fight Bananas, you have uh, all different types of kind of media sources. But like again, we all know each other or we know of each other. I'm not in competition with anybody. I really don't care to be in competition with them. My pace is my pace. I do things my way. Um, and that's just it. If they like it, wonderful. If they don't, I really don't care. Like I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. I work hard for everything that I do, and what my goals are my goals. At the end of the day, that's how I see it.
Now, obviously you had a fight. You're preparing for another one.
Right.
Um, Mercy, were you asking what her name is, or I wasn't sure exactly what you're asking, but are you asking who I'm interviewing? If you are, just let me know. But
What are we promoting?
question
Um,
was,
Media. I'm also a podcaster and a fighter.
okay, yeah, her name is Liza, and she has a pretty active podcast that I've seen on Instagram. I like to bring other people on who do that kind of stuff, just because I try to talk to kind of all kinds of different people in the sport. So
Yeah.
yes,
You can
she's a
follow me at Lisa with a Z podcast. But yeah,
SOLER, Solar, SOLER,
yeah.
Solar.
Card. I'll be fighting for Combat Night here in Fort Lauderdale at Sway May 28th. It will be the debut of the first heavyweight women's MMA match in Florida.
Yeah. So what has that been like preparing when you're kind of because most people in the industry aren't going to compete in that kind of thing. They might do jujitsu tournaments, perhaps, but
Yeah.
as someone who's competing and doing it at the same time, or have you had to kind of put this on the back burner a little bit?
Yeah, like, when I'm in fight camp, I do take my time to like set back from the show. I'll tell everybody, hey, I'm gonna take like a little hiatus because it does take a lot of mental rest that you need to do for training as well. So, me staring at a computer, me doing a lot of editing and media and like I can't focus all that energy that I want to. So I've learned to just, take a break from the podcast during fight camp. Or if I do, I just balance it as well enough and then I'll pick it back up after my fights. And it seems to be going pretty smooth. Um, and I just take it one day at a time. I'm not rushing the process, and the content will come when it comes. And I'm grateful for everything that I do, and you know, we're gonna try to get bigger.
Now, the show you're fighting, that's an amateur show, right?
Yeah,
Combat.
yeah.
Yeah. Why? That's another thing I've always wondered. I always ask because, like, it seems like there's a lot of amateur fights, and Florida.
Right.
What?
Um,
Why do so many people choose to fight amateur? Because when you fight amateur, you don't get paid. So I always ask people why they chose one over the other. Because it's always been that way from the beginning.
right.
In the 90s, people have to make that decision. Some decide not to. Some
Hmm.
decide. What made you decide to do it?
I know I'm not fighting for money. You know, I always knew that. I'm 33 years old, about to be 34 this year. Of course, this is something I thought I would have had 5 years ago when I was very heavily like involved in training, like 4, 5, 6 days a week. Um, had I had the opportunities then, I probably would have had an amazing, fight career and trying maybe at ending at 33, 35 time. Who knows? I could have been pro by now. But I had to go through this journey to make this weight class now happen this year, and I'm just going with it. I'm going with the opportunities. The doors are opening that I never thought would open, and I'm going with it. So there's just like if I say no, I'll regret it later on in life. Is how I see it. I don't want to know what if. I just want to know the answer. So if that means I have to, put myself to the test and train and get knowledge in the sport and skilled and do what I got to do to test myself, I will. But I know that what I'm doing is not just for me and this fight alone. It's for other people to come behind me and know I have weight class now I can fight in, because it's how somebody did it before. So I'm glad that I'm that person that is doing it because, I make my mistakes and I'm human and I'm willing to, fight for it. I'm fighting for, a different standard and a different vision. And I'm happy to do it, man.
Well, what I mean is amateur and pro, as far as MMA or kickbox, there's not. Well, I guess I don't know what the rules are you're fighting under, but a lot of times there's not a lot of separation relative to the rules, which is why
Yeah,
I asked.
there's no elbows, no knees to the face.
Okay,
We'll be
so
wearing our shin pads and stuff. So regular Florida rules that we have for a MMA match.
so there's a big separation in Florida between the two.
Yeah, because then when you go pro, you have your elbows, and it's like full game, you know. Um,
In
but
some
they do
states, there really
protect
isn't.
us. They do. I do. They do protect our amateurs here. Like they're very serious about it here, and like you know, and then they protect our pros too. I've seen a lot of pro fights here too, and at the end of the day, it's about fighter safety. We're all about technique and form and getting to get the job done, but we're all about safety too. Everybody has to go home, you know.
Now, how much are you able to train as you're preparing for this?
How much am I training right now? So I just graduated last week. So today, funny thing is that my coach, my strength and conditioning coach, he's like, here are my requirements that I need you 3 days a week. Then I also have to do jujitsu. I also have to do striking, um, and just also alone things I do myself, like maintaining my cardio and things like that. So we are in and then I also have sparring days that I'm now incorporating with a couple of girls this camp, and so I'm very lucky that I got a lot of ladies willing to jump in to train with me this camp. So we're in preparations as we speak.
Now, who are some of the people that you're training with?
So I train in Hialeah with Round Five MMA with Caesar Search. He's my MMA coach. My strength and conditioning coach is Jaime Alvarado with GoFit. He's in Broward. And then like I said, I'm gonna start sparring with some of the girls from Bushido Muay Thai in down in Miami. So I have a very solid amount of people that are helping me during this camp to get me through to the finish line.
And yours is Muay Thai rules or is it MMA?
It's MMA. Yeah.
Okay.
My first um match, my debut was a kickboxing match.
So I think that kind of answers your question there, Mercy. You're asking if she was going to go bare knuckle or MMA. So she's going MMA at least already. So
Yeah, MMA. She's the one who was my opponent wanted to do an MMA fight. Because she had a fight right after me, her debut. Maybe 2 weeks after my fight in Georgia, she fought for a different promotion, and she reached out to me um to see if I would fight her. And I said, okay, cool. I gave her my terms, and took maybe like a week or two to make the full decisions for us to agree to the fight, and now we're set. We're set for May 28th. And I'm grateful for her to come down, and it's another opportunity for me to put myself to the test as an athlete. And I'm happy about it. I'm excited for another opportunity to get back in there.
it seems like there's a lot more opportunities for women these days. Do you
Yeah.
agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's not even. I have two other girls that want to fight me after this.
Mhm.
One, she saw my interview with Jake from the Fighting Now, who you had on your show the other day, and she's in Australia. She's like 3-0. This really sweet. She's super awesome. Um, um, Her name's Elizabeth. She fights on the XFC promotion in Australia, and she saw my fight, and she was like, "Hey, I think it would be great if you and I would fight. Another heavyweight fighter." Um, and then Mackenzie as well, which is my current opponent's previous opponent, also asked me to fight. And we're trying to develop the women's heavyweight, fight class, and it's going to take some time. And there's not a lot of us, but there will be popping up here and there. The more we promote ourselves as fighters, and the more that actual people want to believe in fighters like us, the opportunities will come. So it just takes one opportunity for somebody to say yes, and then everything else can follow after. So we'll see. I have high
Now,
hopes for this weight class.
okay, if you continue to compete, do you think you're going to focus on Florida events primarily?
Um, I mean, I want my platform to grow. I would love to travel and go to other states, and really expand the platform. I've been very cultured on Florida MMA, and its community, and that's where my strength is right now. But you never know what's going to happen. If I do get an opportunity out of state, then that would be great, and then I'll go from there. But we'll see.
Because creatively, what you've been doing in Florida, so you wouldn't mind like taking it on to elsewhere.
Absolutely not. If you tell me, hey, there's a fight here in my Madison Square Garden, I'm gonna go to Madison. I'm going to New York. Bye. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. I just like to prepare and do my research on the fighters. Like, I'm very strategic with a lot of things I do. I like to book ahead of time with me and my team, because I have a team. Like, I also have a photographer who catches all the action shots of the fights. I'm watching the fights while they're happening, so I'm well educated on it, and I know what questions to ask during the post-fight interview. Whether it's one, talk about round one, round two, or if it was a knockout, or if it was a submission by armbar. I'm keeping up to making sure I know all the information, so that way not only the viewers are well informed, but also the fighter is well recognized for their talent in the cage that night.
Now, have you done any traveling to I'm sure maybe you saw some UFC events in Florida. I know they had a couple, but have you
I
traveled to
haven't,
the big events?
not yet. I am a mom, so sometimes traveling does become a little hard, and making sure that, I have somebody to take care of them. But, if the opportunity did come, I know I did sign up one time for UFC Media Pass, but, like, only the brave, only the few. get selected. But I still have high hopes one day I will be able to go to a UFC event or a Bellator or one championship or Invicta. Those would be amazing platforms for me to come on because they have such talented fighters and like people that I look up to myself. So,
What about bare knuckle? I mean, they've been doing a lot of stuff in
oh,
Florida.
I just interviewed Britton Hart not too long ago. She came to my school. She came to visit me, and Joey Beltran was in the studio with us as well. I love. I've had Noah Cutter who just fought this past weekend on my show. He actually called me before, and he was like, "Hey, I'm looking. If I win, just know I want you to interview me with a post fight interview." I'm like, I got you. I'm in it. He did lose this weekend, but I still reached out to him. He's like, I was like, you don't look so bad. You still look cute after fighting that fight. He's like, that's the only thing that's saving me right now. But I love bare knuckle. I think David Feldman is very selective on who he has as media, but maybe one day that'll change. We'll see what's up, David. This is the podcast instead.
No, I mean, you said you applied for UFC, but did you apply for any other events?
Not yet, because again, now I've been focusing on the fights have been kind of lined back to back. So I've been training. Really, I've been training since last year July for both fights. So, and that I was doing that with school and working and being a mom. And so now that I'm done with school, I'm able to redirect things in life. But I've still been training like almost a whole year now, going on a whole year.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember I'm in Oklahoma and they were having an event in Kansas, and I had interviewed Sean Wheelock, and he actually sent me some press contacts for bare knuckle, but I didn't feel like going out to Kansas really. I live like in a small area. I'm kind of like, I live the quiet life now. I don't really. This is all I kind of do when I'm not working. I don't need to like go to, but he did send me that, so I was thinking, yeah, why couldn't you get, you
Yeah,
know?
I've gone as a guest to bare knuckle and enjoy the fights and be there, but like I haven't gone as a media personality yet. But it's on the list.
Mm.
Don't worry, it's on the list. Soon to
Yeah,
come.
I think that'd be cool because there, it seems like, I don't know. What do you think about like, because the burnout, it seems like it looks like it's getting more popular,
Yes,
but
it
you,
is.
as someone who's there, what do you think?
Bare knuckle is coming up strong behind UFC. Because now Miles Vidal has his own promotion for bare knuckle.
Mm.
So, and it has different levels. You have your BYB, you have Bear Big KFC, now you have, Game Bread. So it's gonna keep growing in its own way, just like the UFC had to. And I like it. It's a different type of violence. But and I love the fighters and theatrics that happen as well at bare knuckle fights. So um give it some time. Not everybody likes it because it is a very damaging type of sport to watch. Sometimes you watch the bloodiest fights go on, and you got to be able to have that type of stomach to hold that stuff in.
This
But
person saying you can go with them as media.
I'm sorry.
This person, Mercy, said you could go with them as media to
Oh
some
yeah,
event.
cool.
Mercy,
Let's see.
which one about, but if you want to put something in there, I'm
DM
trying to
me.
find the comment. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that probably work. Mark, what did you say, Mark? I'm trying to read. This is kind of going
Yeah,
fast,
you're
but
fine. Yeah.
Mark, I used to live in Hawaii. Mark is a black belt in Hawaii. He's been a black belt for a long time. He's an old school guy, and
Okay.
he's asking, better, he's asked about bare knuckle as far as related to like CTE and stuff. What are your thoughts on the ramifications in the industry for something like that?
Um, you know what? They have a lot of controversy because I mean, I like Noah. I've seen him have a lot of damage done, like broken nose. A lot of these fighters take on a lot of damage. Some of them can't come back. I've seen people have gone into comas after these fights. Um, do I worry for the fighters? Absolutely. You know, but we're all athletes. They know what they're signing up for. I know what I'm signing up for. I'm when I read all the documents, I'm basically signing my life away, and I'm okay with it because I'm willing to get in there and put my life on the line. So if everybody else is willing to do the same, we also have to deal with the repercussions after the damage, the surgeries, the scans, the clearance, and whatever the board and regulations want us to follow at the end of the day. So
Yeah, that might be a good point, Mark. I'm not exactly sure what. Do you mean like if somebody's face gets cut up, it might hurt them as far as getting sponsorships? Like, is that what you mean, Mark? I think that might be what he's relating to.
sponsorships,
Um,
the
yeah,
damage.
especially for women, right? Because they're, I think
I would
people
love more
have.
sponsors. Trust me. Like it's tough to get sponsors. Yes, as a fighter, I would say, especially as an amateur fighter. Like I have to put in a lot of time into training, and that I'm not putting into like work or other things. And it is costly to travel to all the different gyms and then your nutrition, your meal plans, and everything like that. So, if it and even bare knuckle fighters have a tough time finding sponsors too for their fights. I've talked to in one of my interviews with Noah Cutter. He's explained his struggle as a fighter. And like some of them are broke, some of them, are living out of their friend's house because they're trying to live their dreams, and they can't work a 9 to 5. And a lot of these job places won't hire fighters because they can't work a full-time job, and then they're always either traveling or doing fight shows. So like, you know, support your local fighters. Eventually they're going to be pros and it's going to pay off in the end. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think when we're young, we tend to more live in a kind of like a lesser state. Like when I lived in Hawaii, I lived in a small place and lived paycheck to paycheck. It probably wasn't a good idea in hindsight, but I did it. I don't know why I did it, but I did. After I got out of the military, I did do it for a while. And yeah, I think fighters, yeah, it's the same. They're trying to pursue their dreams and they're living, you know, kind of the best they can. But
Right. And
yeah,
like if you watch some of my episodes with some of the stories that I've heard from these fighters and what they do and what they sacrifice to become these champions, like it's incredible stories. And so I'm looking forward to talking to more people along the way, probably a couple more bare knuckle fighters, and whatever opportunities, whoever I want to talk to. And this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
yes, thank you for taking the time to do it. One thing I did want to ask you is because what do you think, like, maybe your long term vision is for your creative stuff?
So I have had a lot of people ask me within the last, couple of months what I want to do in general because my athletic side is starting to pick up, but I do want to be a media personality, and like I genuinely love being in media production. Who knows? Like I've been learning a lot of the behind the scenes as far as like even matchmaking. Eventually, I've talked about being a ref one day. You know, um, Maybe being in the corner for somebody else. Like I like to see all sides of the sport. Um, but as far as being longevity, I definitely love being in media. Either you're going to see me reporting or maybe commentating one day because I really am trying to develop as a commentator.
I'll say, and I'll bring her back here. Mercy, are you with Bare Knuckle by chance? I'm just trying to understand when you were asking the questions, just so I could kind of, yeah, I'll get her back here in a moment. But I was trying to follow some of your questions, like when you mentioned that she could go with you as media or whatever, just so I can understand when you're asking where you're coming from exactly. Yeah, I'll bring Liza back here in a second. She's probably reconnecting. With Are you with some organizations? I mean, that's what I was asked. Just so when you ask the questions or you mentioned something, I can kind of relay it because I wasn't necessarily sure, um, kind of what you're saying. I guess you mean you manage some of those people. Yeah, she may have lost her connection for a second. Oh, okay, okay. Now I understand. I got it. She's gonna come back now.
Sorry about that.
I was kind of following up some things with Mercy there, so I understood.
Gotcha.
But you were kind of talking about your long-term vision for podcast.
I'm sorry.
You were kind of talking about your long-term vision for your podcast stuff or your creative stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to have more, obviously, if you think podcast and success, you think Joe Rogan, you know. Um, a lot of people have been like, hey, you're like the female Joe Rogan here in Florida. And I'm like, oh my God. Like that's like a big name to compare to, when I'm like very my very humble beginnings. But that's what the mindset is. Like I want to be as big as Joe Rogan, but like, female version and just, be successful and happy at the end of the day doing what I'm doing. I don't ever want it to think it's a job. I want this to be my life and I'm enjoying what I'm doing along the way.
And have you, like, as you're creating, you ever felt any, like negative feedback at all, or no?
I get negativity all the time. But I've learned to just be very confident with who I am, accept who I am. Um, you know, People can tell me I'm whatever under the sun. It doesn't matter. Like I know who I am. I know what my purpose is. You're not gonna take me off my path. And just I stay positive, stay motivated, and I keep it moving. That's it. If I have my bad days, I know who to reach out to bring me back up. And I take mental health days too. I shut off. I get off the internet. I don't go on Instagram. I watch whatever movies I want to catch up. Whatever I want to do, I shut off because it's healthy too. Even my coaches tell me, "Hey, get off the phone, get off Instagram, get off whatever. Don't do whatever. Take a walk. Go for nature. Go to the beach, release the toxic energy out of your life." So I have a lot of people that keep me sane and focused and leveled. So that way I can be able to continue doing my podcast and be creative. So, yeah.
Well, as we're kind of winding down the interview, I always let people kind of, if you wanted a message to leave the people that are listening to this or where they can follow you, that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. Well, thank you again, Todd, for having me on your show. It's been a great chat. And I'm glad that I've had a lot of people, come on and interact with us today. Right now, you can go ahead to on YouTube, Lisa with a Z podcast. Um, a lot of Florida MMA, combat sports, coverage on there, personal one-on-one interviews with a lot of fighters, and just a lot of great media content that you got. Like, I put a lot of bloopers and behind the scene moments too of what goes on at these crazy fights. So those are little things just so everybody can see that it's not always perfect. We all have fun and mess up too. I have our Instagram page where I also post media coverage at Lisa with a Z podcast. My personal Instagram is official underscore Lisa Soler. And I'm on Facebook, Lisa Soler. I don't really have a Twitter. I am thinking on starting to get on Twitter soon to get more, communication and going on with people and, network coverage. Um, Other than that, oh, my current sponsors I have Drink RX Water. Were on my last camp, Fusion CBD products. Those are my two of my sponsors that are jumping back in. I am looking for sponsors to jump in during this camp, to support me to get me through the next couple weeks. And of course, I'll have my fight outfit and things like that. Or DM me if you want to get involved and work with me as a sponsor. I love promoting everybody. I'm all about positive spirits, and I think that's it for now.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time to come on. And like I said, anytime if you have to do something, I'd do something with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I'm come and chat with you after my fight, so we get like a recap on what happened after.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Thank you so much again.
Yeah, it was great talking with you. Great meeting you.
All right. Well, have a good day, and to everybody out there, stay safe, stay positive, have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Bye.